I need to get my ratatouille started. It's getting late. So what I have are 3 zucchinis. I have a very large can of petite diced tomatoes. It's the only one I have. I'll probably use a little more than half. You can also use the spiced diced tomatoes. If they have like basil or onions or something, you can get that pre-done. I add the spices myself, so we'll be doing that now. I also have some sliced baby bellas. I have half a white onion and half a red onion that I'm going to chop and put in. And then these are all the ingredients I'll be flavoring it with. I've got some thyme leaves, some ground pepper, some seasoned salt, some Italian seasoning. That's olive oil. That's what that is. Some minced garlic, some basil, and some tarragon. And I'm going to get these chopped up. And we're going to brown the onions, the mushrooms, and the chopped zucchini. We're going to slice these into very large pieces. I'll show you that once I do. I like them to be fairly thick so that they hold their shape and size, because we do simmer it for quite a while in order to get the flavors of all the spices. So I will start putting stuff together and show you as I go. So I've got my zucchini all chopped up. It was getting a little bit old, so I had to kind of take off some of the darker spots. I've had it for a couple days and didn't cook it 2 days ago when I had intended to, so I had to cut off a couple of pieces, but it looks all very good. I have my onions ready to go. I have my baby bellas, and we are going to start by browning the onions first in this pan with about a teaspoon of olive oil. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble remembering olive oil today, but I'm going to heat up my pan. And I want it pretty hot. So we're going to let that heat for a second. While that's heating, I'm just going to wrap up my onion that I have left over, and I will be back with you in a second. Okay, my pan is getting nice and hot. So we are going to drizzle in couple of teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. And the first thing I want to add is my onions, because I want them to cook up nice and soft, and they add a lot of flavor if they get a bit brown. So they're going in first, and we're hearing a nice sizzle. So get those in and start stirring around. And I will cook these for probably about 3 minutes, and then we'll add some more of the ingredients, like the spices and the mushrooms, and then we add the zucchini last before all the other stuff goes in. So I'm just going to keep stirring here, and I will get back to you when these are done cooking. My onions are browning nicely. You can see they're leaving little brown bits, which is exactly what I want. I'll deglaze the pot with a little bit of red wine before I put in the tomatoes. So now it's time to add the zucchini. I had turned the pan down to about low. I want to return it back up to high so I can brown the zucchini as well. So we're going to add in our zucchini. Lost one overboard. And I'm just going to stir and brown, and I will get back to you. My zucchini is sort of frying away there. It's releasing a lot of juices, so I want to keep those juices in there, so I've covered it. It's still on high. It's getting browner, but now is the time to add the seasonings. So I'm going to show them to you again. We're going to use about a teaspoon of each. I just sort of eyeball things. And then do a final taste later. But all the dry seasonings, again, it's thyme, pepper, seasoned salt, Italian seasonings, basil, and tarragon are my Italian seasonings pretty much. I will be adding about a teaspoon of each of those. And then after we do that, we will deglaze with some red wine. Then I will add my garlic, because I don't want my garlic to burn. There's nothing worse than burned garlic. So I'll be adding a teaspoon of all of these ingredients. I will deglaze with the red wine, and right before I add the garlic, I will get back to you. As you can see, my zucchini has a really nice color. The pan is very, very brown. So it's time to add my mushrooms in. I don't like them to burn, so I add them before I get the wine, before I add the liquid ingredients. I want them to pick up as much flavor as possible. So we're just going to stir them in. I'm not even going to let them cook that much. Bake them up a little because they're kind of big. So we'll break them up. They'll reduce down as they cook. So it's time to deglaze with a little wine and to add, see how brown? I mean, that's, oh, there's so much flavor in there. That's going to be delicious. So I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup of red wine in here and stir it all around. So let's see how that goes. Oh, you know me. This is how I measure. Oh, it's about a 1/4 cup. This is a really nice reserve Malbec red wine. You want to use your best ingredients when you cook. Baby Bella's, good wine, fresh garlic, if you can get it. The better your seasonings and ingredients, the better your food's going to taste. So you don't want to use a cheap wine or dried ingredients. I find with Italian really does work fine. Fresh ingredients are good. I've had herb gardens before, but I really don't have a problem with dry seasonings when it comes to Italian dishes that have sauce. It doesn't seem to make that big of a difference. The only thing I do absolutely love is fresh basil, and that does seem to make a difference. As you can see, the color is turning nice and dark. It's picking up all that brown, juicy deliciousness from the browning. So it is time to add our garlic and our tomatoes. And then it's just a matter of simmering for a couple hours, very low and slow. So that's the majority of it. Oh, and the dog thinks there's someone at the door. All right, so I'm going to throw in tomatoes. Like I said, I usually use a smaller can. They are not drained. So we're just going to eyeball this. We want it to be nice and juicy. So I'm going to throw in about half, give it a stir, and see how it looks. Oh, Iggy. He has to bark at every noise when it's windy out. Our chimes go off and he thinks it's the front door. Okay, so I am going to just sit here and continue to stir, decide how much of these tomatoes I'm going to use. And I'm going to throw in the teaspoon or 2 of garlic, and I'll show you what it looks like when I go to cover it to simmer it for a couple hours here on the stovetop. I ended up using the entire can of the tomatoes, which is good. And of course it wouldn't be one of my recipes if I didn't forget something to tell you, and that would be, we're just going to kind of go over here real quick. I need a teaspoon of sugar. That's all you do. It's just a small teaspoon. It's just enough to make up for the acidity of the tomatoes. So you just put in a little teaspoon of sugar. That's really all it needs. You don't want it to be sweet. You're just trying to offset some of the acid from the tomatoes. And that's it for now. We're going to cover it and low and slow simmer for a couple hours. Onward to my chicken. I'm going to show you the whole dinner tonight, so oh boy, lucky you. Okay, putting this on the simmer burner on low. As you can see, simmer burner low. And I'll set my timer for 20 minutes. I'll ask Alexa. Every 20 minutes, we'll give this a stir. Alexa, set a ratatouille timer for 20 minutes.
Ratatouille timer, 20 minutes, starting now.
Love my Alexa. So it's time to start the chicken thighs. I need to trim these. I have, I think, for 9 chicken thighs. I'm going to trim the fat off. This recipe cannot get easier because I'm cheating. I make my own barbecue sauce a lot, and I will give you a recipe for that. But I have to tell you, we have discovered Sweet Baby Ray's, and it is so delicious and so easy. So all I'm going to do, I already have my slow cooker out. It's heating up already. I put my liner in it so I don't have to wash any dishes. I will trim the chicken thighs. I will put them in the slow cooker, cover them completely with barbecue sauce, and that's it. They'll cook on high for 3 hours, and they'll be done the same time the ratatouille is, and then we'll use some of my homemade vegetable broth to cook up some quick little bit of couscous, and that's it. Dinner's done. So it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I will be done with most of my preps in the next 10 minutes. I'll show you the crock pot once it's finished. So there's all the trimmed chicken thighs. I put the biggest, thickest ones on the bottom because that's where the heat is the hottest. They'll cook, they need a little more cooking time, and then the smaller ones are on top. I will now pour the barbecue sauce all over it, and we'll be starting the cooking. It's already heating up. Yeah, it's nice and warm already. And then, oh, Alexa, timer off. Time to stir my ratatouille. And one of the other things I do is I save the chicken fat trimmings and I put it in with my bone broth. You can then pull it back out because you don't want to be eating chunks of fat, but it creates a really nice flavor for the bone broth. So I'm just going to throw the barbecue sauce over the top of my thighs, close it up, and set the timer for 3 hours. I'll let you know and see you back here in 3. So there is my crock pot full of goodness. I'm just going to cover it and set my phone timer for 2 hours, and we'll come back in 2 hours and see how it's doing. I have a feeling it's going to take 3, but we'll check it in 2. So see you back here. Bye. Dinner is coming along really well. The ratatouille I've turned off. It looks really good. Oops, it's dripping. So I'm going to cover it and heat it up right before we eat. In preparation for making the couscous, that's what you put underneath the ratatouille. It is a pasta product for those of you who've never had it. It's like the size of, slightly smaller than rice, but it is pasta and it's delicious. And I cook it in broth. That's the last of my frozen vegetable bone broth, homemade. So I'm going to put that in the microwave and put it, get it melted down into liquid form, and I'll be cooking my couscous in it. I just checked my thighs, and they are cooking nicely. They still have an hour to go, and I think they'll be ready. What I might do just to get a little sweetness out of them is broil them, a couple of them, in the oven before I serve them, which will kind of solidify the sauce of the barbecue sauce and brown them up a little bit. So that's going to be 2 nights dinner, so is the couscous. So I will not be cooking tomorrow. Yay! I've thawed my homemade vegetable bone broth, and it comes out to exactly 2 cups, which is perfect because I want to make 2 cups of couscous, and you need exactly the same amount of liquid as you do couscous. So what we'll be doing is heating that up with some butter and a little salt. Once it boils, I will add 2 cups of couscous to it. Let it sit for 5 minutes. It puffs up like rice, and we will pour our ratatouille over the top of that with some sour cream. I'm also going to make a flour slurry. I want this thickened up, and I don't want to have to put it into the oven to brown it up because it's perfectly cooked. So I'm just going to thicken up the sauce with a little bit of a flour slurry, and when I do serve up dinner, when I'm done here, I will show you our plates. I won't do taste tests. Pete doesn't seem to enjoy those. So you'll just have to trust me that it's delicious. Okay, I'll show you the final when everything's done. So just real quick, I am going to give everything a little bit of a taste test to see how we're doing. So first my ratatouille. Oh, it looks really good. Get a little piece of, there we go, let me see. It needs salt, but that is delicious. So we're gonna salt it a little. Oh, that's really good. Okay. And I'm also just going to taste the barbecue sauce for the chicken. It thickened right up. Look at that. So that is perfect. So I'm just going to take a little taste of the sauce. It's different than I expected. It's actually quite good. Yeah, that's delicious. Wow. I didn't expect that. That is delicious. I will probably save that sauce and use it in another chicken dish. That is really good. All right, guys, well, that's it for tonight. So I hope you enjoy your dinner. I'm not going to show you our plates because we're not going to taste test it tonight. We're tired. Hope you're having a great week, and we will see you all soon. Good night.